I lead our global enterprise, so I'm the general manager for Criteo across the globe, and I manage the retail media side as well as our performance side. So performance is more of the acquisition and retargeting, and then retail media globally in scope. And we have clients across both sides of the business, so it's really nice bringing those two things together.
So you've been in this space for a while. I think your view is that retail media isn't as new as some people think it is.
It's definitely not as new as some people think it is. I started, goodness, about 14 years ago with Triad Retail Media and worked with Walmart at the very early days, the inception of, hey, we've got this offering, here's something you should be thinking about. And at the time, it was pre-IAB ad units, it was definitely more pre-sponsored ad units, and it was more about telling consumers what was happening in the store, how to find a store, and sampling. And since that time, it really evolved. So, within the 12, 13 years that we were managing the business for Walmart, before they decided to take it in-house and really continue to grow it and scale it, we moved into sponsored product ads, display ad units, offsite, WMX, which was a really long time ago. So all of the measurement and analytics, and offsite media. So it's been interesting in that the last 3 years, it's really taken shape as, especially I think, coupled by many things, whether that is the valuable first-party data, the deprecation of third-party cookies to what happened, of course, with COVID, and it made retailers move faster with their own online. And then, of course, Amazon, and seeing that footprint of Amazon and what that can do in terms of customers really moving to online to purchase. So, this gives them that profitability when you think about the low margins with online. But also, too, I would say, it's that valuable first-party data and being able to connect with their customers that truly is very inspiring for retailers. So it's taken shape. We work with over 250 retailers globally.
So you mentioned global there, and obviously your role covers the world. How big a trend is retail media around the world? I think there's a sense it's very much a US-driven phenomenon, but that's not the case, right?
No, it's not. It's not. And in fact, equally, we've got well over 70 retailers in EMEA. So there's quite a few retailers. And I think, you find them of all shapes and sizes. And I would say in the APAC region, it's more of the marketplaces. So we had acquired a company called Mabaya specifically to help. And I'd say even more so, APAC is influencing trends because more and more retailers are going to become hybrid in terms of really growing their footprint with customers. And just as you've seen with Walmart, you're seeing with Target, they're growing their marketplaces. So it's interesting to see just the influence across each of the different regions. I would say that, in EMEA, it's much more content focused. It is definitely, I would say, they are further ahead, in my opinion, when it comes to omni. And I would say with the US, it's certainly more of the digital. And then, of course, with APAC, it's more of the marketplaces and how do you connect with those sellers. So it's been fun to see the scope across the business and how it changes.
So how do you think the growth of retail media is going to change the media and advertising industries? Where is the spend coming from? Is it a threat or an opportunity for traditional media players?
Well, I think it's definitely an opportunity. And I think that, like I said, just in terms of that valuable first-party data, it's so critical that retailers, which is probably the biggest challenge for them, is figuring out how do they want to utilize their data, because their customers are number one and the customer is at the center. And so I think it absolutely starts there, but that data and that ability to connect with that customer in a very intuitive, very consumer-friendly type of way, I think that the retail media side just really has an opportunity that a typical publisher wouldn't. And when you are trusted and when you trust that retailer, I'm a Nordstrom shopper, I'm a Target shopper, I want them to know me as much as they possibly can. And when they help me make it very intuitive and easy, I want to shop there more and more.
It seems to me that the promise of retail media is to deliver much more relevant messages to consumers. This is less about interrupting your TV viewing experience. It's more about delivering something relevant and targeted at the point of purchase or around that. Is that how you see this? Will this deliver better advertising for shoppers?
I think done well, yes. I think that because so many retailers are new, and because the space is new, I think that's where retailers in particular have to really think about what they will and they will not do. And I think you've even seen retailers trying and testing new things, those that have been doing it for a long time. I think Walmart's doing things I would have never thought they would have done 14 years ago. But you can do that in a good test environment. As you think about AI, and where that's continuing to evolve and what we could be doing, even just thinking about creative and the way to test creative and see what works on the individual customer, being able to spin up the measurement on that and quickly be able to articulate that and do it really well in a mass distribution, that's exciting. And that's what's going to help retailers scale. But it's also what's going to keep consumers feeling very safe and that they're known. I think that's important.
So marketing and advertising, perhaps now more than ever, is a team sport. Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of the partnerships and conversations you're looking forward to here in Cannes.
I think more around, and I was talking about this earlier, but I would say more around standardization and measurement. I think that I'm always interested in those types of conversations. I think we're going to hear a lot more around content and creative and really that personalized experience. I already had a conversation on it last night. Of course, the measurement side of things. So to me, those three areas, and not just standardization and measurement. So I think sometimes they get coupled together. I think definitely very unique, very different. But I'm looking to be inspired. This is a great way to do it, and it's a very beautiful space to do it. And you've got the brightest minds here. So. And
finally, the future. Give us some thoughts about how you envisage the retail media space developing over the next couple of years. Any big things we should be looking out for?
Well, again, I'm coming at it more from a retailer perspective. I think that we're going to see what is right now two separate sides of the business within a retailer. So you think about retail media kind of sitting over here, and you think about more of the corporate marketing, trade, co-op sitting over here. We're already starting to see that come together, and it needs to. And so I think that to me is kind of more my biggest prediction, is that we're going to see that come together faster, because when you've got data at the core, you can't have a separate strategy over here and one over here. You really need to make sure that consumer is at the center. And so I think that's going to be really interesting over the next year or so too, as you see organizations shift and change. And a lot of people talk about it from a brand standpoint, but I think you're really going to see it from a retail standpoint.